Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 46 of Your Birth Bestie podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today and for your patience since I skipped last week's episode. Last week was crazier than most, and if you are new here or you haven't heard me talk about my work-life balance running this business, I am a full-time stay-at-home mom with my two girls who are ages 4 and 1.5, and I usually work during nap time when they overlap sometimes. And my 4-year-old has decided to start growing out of her nap. So less and less each day I am able to work. So that has been an adjustment. And then I also work after they go to bed at night. And with being pregnant, some nights it just doesn't happen. And that is okay with the season that we're in right now. Of course, there is just so much that I would love to do, but there is just not enough time in the day. And when schedules get changed and kids are the priority, sometimes it just doesn't happen. And then on top of that, my whole family got sick. So you can probably hear my voice that I'm just still getting over whatever I had. It's been about a week. But I'm feeling better. Just doesn't sound great. And then we decided that we wanted to start looking for a new vehicle for when baby girl number 3 comes in the summertime. So we were getting quotes out like 9 to 12 months or more for a new vehicle when I started looking last week. So I was super shocked, kind of got freaked out that we weren't going to have a vehicle by the time that she came. So after more research, and we took several trips together to the dealership, which is why my nighttime work schedule was limited, we decided to purchase a Honda Odyssey minivan. So I am officially a minivan mom, which I was actually super against for a while, but I am actually loving it. And there's so much space and functionality. So I am happy with our choice. And then it was my oldest daughter's birthday last week, and we were all sick. I usually teach nursing students on Tuesday nights, but had to cancel, and it was just overall a roller coaster of a week between all of those things that I mentioned. But we did have a redemption weekend with lots of family time, birthday party for my daughter on Saturday. So we had lots of fun there, and we were back to the regular schedule, I guess, if you could even call it that, because every day is super different. But with that being said, I am so glad to be back today and talking about those changes and the transitions in the season of life that are completely unpredictable, but they're also just so joyful and exciting, really never a dull moment, but they're also exhausting. And I just wasn't able to keep up last week. So I apologize very, very much. And thank you for your patience and for being here again today. I hope you had a chance to listen to my first daughter's birth story that I shared on social media. If you haven't listened to that before, when I first started this podcast, it's actually episode number 2 in honor of her birthday. I posted that. It wasn't a positive birth story in the hospital with my first baby, but it actually did teach me a lot of lessons about hospital birth, about myself, and about what I want to do with my life in terms of healthcare and education and supporting women. So that is the silver lining in all of that. But the topic of today that I wanted to talk about is about changing family dynamics with bringing a new baby home and planning for all of that. Whether you are having your first baby or your 5th baby, there is definitely a shift in family dynamics. And that initial adjustment especially can be really, really difficult. So let's talk about that. Hey there, I'm Beth Connors, a midwife and mom of 2, but also your birth bestie. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into everything you need to feel confident, prepared, and in control, from baby bump to delivery room, from practical tips to personal stories. We'll cover it all so you know exactly what to expect every step of the way. Let's get into it. So I am 100% the person that plans everything ahead, but I also know with kids and pregnancy and life in general, you just can't plan for it all. But I do like to try to think about everything at least as much as I can in advance and feel prepared and confident in the next chapter. So maybe you can relate to one or a few of these things, but some things on my mind this week are the logistics of another little person being here and caring for them and splitting my time again with another child. The thought of new schedules or lack of a predictable schedule with a newborn and how that's going to affect our life and how my other kids are going to adjust is something that has really been stressing me out a little bit lately. We love schedules and predictability, and I remember that really was probably the most difficult part of transitioning from 1 to 2 kids. I also am thinking about outgrowing our space and figuring out how to make our home the most functional for everyone. And the car situation at least is solved for me, thankfully, but that's also a big decision that many families, when they add another baby into their family, have to consider. And I can't recommend the Car Mom enough on Instagram and on YouTube. Her family car videos are so helpful. So definitely check out her videos because they're not just those vanilla car reviews from a random salesman. It's actually from a mom who has a lot of experience with cars and gives you a review of the mom things that are convenient or not so convenient in everyday life, transporting kids around and running errands, the things that other reviewers don't really mention in their videos. So there's also information about car seats, about the setups around that and functionality of the cars with various configurations of the seats. So that's super helpful, and I definitely recommend Kelly the Car Mom. But as far as our house, also, this is a space that we are outgrowing, our 3-bedroom townhouse. So we have to start planning how we are going to buy our first home in the next year or so, which is another thing to think about when bringing a new baby home. And I am not going to lie, if we do have to end up with my 2 older girls sharing a room, and they will be 4 and 2, I am kind of terrified how that's going to go. So if anybody has any experience with room sharing and adjustments there, please let me know, because we will also have a newborn baby, right, at the same time. So not sure how that's going to go, but if anybody has any advice, let me know. And aside from growing out of your space, whether it's your home or your car, and having to figure out those things, those definitely can take a mental load on your, emotions and finances. So definitely big things to think about for sure. But the one thing that I can say that I'm confident in is being a third-time mom, right? And walking alongside many other women that are growing their families and learning what works for them and what doesn't for them. I feel really good about all of the baby stuff and the details about what I'm going to need before labor and birth and early postpartum. And then also how the progression happens during those early days and how baby's changing and how your body is changing postpartum. So I feel like my expectations are pretty much set there. I will have to refresh and, go through the mindset and, change some of those thoughts there. Maybe there's going to be some fear and anxiety as labor does get closer, but having those expectations kind of set ahead of time is really helpful. So I know that I can't plan for a lot of it, but having done it before and being through the thick of it, that newborn life, the transition, postpartum, all those emotions, that I do know it's temporary. I remember with my first baby, nothing felt temporary. It felt like it was always going to be hard. But having done it now twice and helping other moms to feel reassured in that way that these are just temporary phases, and learning how to navigate each transition is so helpful. So these are some of the sweetest, most precious moments as well with our little babies. So trying to find ways to prepare for the difficult challenges so we are still able to remember those moments and to cherish when our babies are so little. So I know it's a lot of things that moms will look back on and be like, I was so unhappy, or I was so stressed out, and I don't remember those days, or I just felt like I could have enjoyed them a little bit more. So that's what I don't want to happen to you guys. And I would love to help you, be as prepared as possible and in the right mindset as much as possible. So if you aren't feeling as confident and super ready for baby or for birth, definitely don't worry yet. I would love to chat with you and be sure that all of your questions are answered and that your feelings are validated, and really help you figure out how to move forward and how to have the best experience during birth, and really help you transition into this next phase of your life as best as you possibly can. And I will mention several things to consider here in this podcast, but I could talk for hours and hours on this stuff, and I have many other resources and tips that I would love to share. So definitely reach out to me on Instagram. That's probably the best way. My handle is at BethConnors_CNM. I am literally in there several times a day for sometimes many hours. So I would be happy to connect with you on there and kind of talk and see if there's anything I can do to help you or resources that I can provide for you. Or another option is to join the virtual pregnancy support group that is starting later this month in February. And if you're interested, more information can be found at bethconnors.com/group support. And I will put those links in the show notes as well for you to check out. Okay, so I just wanted to go back a little bit and talk a little bit more about my thoughts when thinking about adding another baby to your family and splitting time between your kids. And even if it's your first baby, whether that's splitting time with your partner, or maybe you have animals at home that you're feeling guilty, kind of neglecting them, there's a lot that goes into that with planning ahead and knowing what to expect and how to manage all of those things. So I know for me, it was really hard to go from 1 to 2 kids, and I felt heartbroken and worried that my first baby, well, she was a little over 2 at the time, but of course she still seemed like my little baby. She wasn't going to love the baby or adjust well, or she would have a hard time with jealousy and things like that. And it was so hard not knowing that I chose that for her, that I was the one, with my husband, of course, that we wanted to have more children. And so I felt selfish in that way a little bit. But of course, she did just fine. There was growing pains in those first few months for sure for everybody. I would say the first 3 months were a little bit rough for us. But right now, they are the best of friends. It is amazing watching them grow up together and play together. So I know it is going to probably be the same for this third baby, but I am still just so uncertain to what our life will be like with 3 kids, right? Maybe some of you can relate to this and think about what your life is actually going to look like and how things will change. And it can be really hard not knowing. I know some people are better at, going with the flow and taking whatever is given to them. But for me, as a planner and somebody that worries about these kinds of things, it's something that I do think about a lot. So hopefully everything goes well. I'm sure everything will turn out just fine, but it's just something that is on my mind. And I know a lot of other moms think about these things too. Another huge factor while planning for baby is the financial aspect. And it can be totally overwhelming to think about whether the pregnancy was planned, or maybe even more so if it was unplanned and there might be some adjustments that need to be unexpectedly made. But either way, finances are super important. You have to update your family's insurance plan, budget for medical expenses, plan for possible changes in income if one parent takes off time temporarily or maybe plans to stay home with the baby, and also just additional expenses that come with having a new baby. I quickly searched Google to just see what the range of the cost was to have a baby in the first year. And according to Google, they say about $20,000 to $50,000 is what you can expect to pay for in the baby's first year. That also includes childcare and the cost of birth. And obviously $20,000 to $50,000 is a huge range, so it varies a lot. But if you take out the cost of birth and focus on everything else, I would have to estimate easily about $20,000 with childcare expenses. And then if you are staying home with baby, closer to maybe $10,000. And I think these are on the lower end for sure. So it's definitely a range, but either way, budgeting in pregnancy and planning for baby's first year can hopefully help you plan ahead and feel more prepared and less stressed out. And while we're talking about finances and money, I did want to just throw in a quick tip to save money that many people will probably just roll their eyes at. And that's totally okay. It's not for everybody, but consider cloth diapering. I would have totally thought I was crazy a couple years ago that I was even doing this now. I would have thought that it was really gross or just maybe too much work. but it has honestly saved my family so much money over the last 4 years of cloth diapering my two girls. And that is really why I feel like I have to share this. So just to give you an idea, it costs about $1,000 per year to diaper a child. So by around 2.5 years or 3 years old, most children are out of diapers. So let's say $3,000 for my oldest, I would have spent on diapers. And then my youngest, who is almost 2, let's say $2,000. So $5,000 total I would have spent on diapers in the last 4 years if I did disposable diapers. But we actually went with Nora's Nursery's diapers, which I totally recommend, which cost about $10 per diaper, maybe a little bit less. And we have 14 diapers that we wash every other day. So that's about $140 to cloth diaper 2 children over 4 years so far. And we did have to buy some more absorbable inserts as the girls got older. And we went with the Thirsties hemp inserts that are about $5 per insert. So that was another $50 or so. So rounded up to about $200, which is such a savings. And I'm so glad that we stuck with it. So if you're considering it, I highly recommend trying it out, even if it's just part-time, just to see if you like it or not. It really can save you so much money. It is better for the environment. It actually helps babies have less diaper rash, I've figured out, as long as you've found a good washing routine that works for you. And this is starting to sound like an ad for cloth diapering, but I just wanted to let you guys know that I really enjoy cloth diapering. It's super easy for our family and really affordable. So something to definitely consider. So then jumping into the next thing is about navigating your pregnancy journey with different items that you probably are thinking about purchasing. And most people make a baby registry list. And I do have a helpful checklist of essential items for both moms and babies that includes pregnancy, labor, birth, postpartum, and then items for your baby and different feeding suggestions, as well as a page about common baby registry items that a lot of people buy, but I really don't think are super necessary if you're trying to have a more simple, minimalistic approach or trying to save money. And if you haven't downloaded it yet, the registry guide can be found at bethconnors.com/checklist. And I hope it's super helpful for you. But of course, having all of this stuff and checking everything off your list doesn't totally mean that you're going to be quote unquote ready. I don't feel like we're ever completely ready, and that's not a good indicator of whether you're ready or not for baby. So I do want to give you more things to think about in terms of planning for your baby's arrival. I don't want it to feel overwhelming for you. I just want to give you some ideas about maybe some additional areas that you might want to consider thinking more about and planning with your partner before your baby is born. And the first thing is preparing for labor, which is a really big one, as well as postpartum expectations. So finding resources that you enjoy learning from to have an idea of what to expect really from the start of that first contraction in labor, or just early signs of labor, like when is it actually happening? Is this false labor? Is this the real deal? What pain coping strategies there are that you want to try, having those available, even just like written down in your phone, because in the moment you might not even think about what you want to do, but you will maybe have a plan. You will hopefully have a plan beforehand, and be able to kind of go down that list, see what works for you and what doesn't. Also considering what to pack in your hospital bag, and then also discussing your birth plan and having a list of preferences that you discussed with your provider and with your partner to make sure everybody's on the same page. I do want to also emphasize the importance of flexibility and learning about all of your options, especially if you're having a birth in the hospital setting. What interventions are maybe pushed more than others? Why are they often recommended? And deciding on when you would be comfortable with any of these medical interventions if they were actually needed. Otherwise, if you are a low-risk mom, everything else is going well, I also want you to feel informed and empowered to continue trusting yourself and your baby to have the birth experience that you want if you're hoping to have a physiologic birth, or you just want to limit interventions in general, or just really overall having an autonomous birth experience that you are in complete control over, because everybody deserves to know their options and to be the one making those decisions for themselves and for their babies. And then as far as postpartum care, preparing for the physical and emotional changes. Who can you trust and who is going to be your support system and check in on you? Who are you okay with visiting you, whether that's in the hospital or after you bring your baby home? When are you okay with having visitors? I know this is very controversial. Some people's families expect to be there that same day. Some people want to wait a little bit longer, several days or even weeks. So it's up to you to decide, even though some families can be a little bit more pushy than others. I want you to also feel supported in feeling confident in making that own decision for yourself and doing what's best for you and for your baby. I also really want to emphasize setting expectations to what postpartum looks like, which of course is different for everybody, but to not expect going back to normal in just a few days or to completely feel like yourself again right away, or to just have your baby and feel like your birth will go fine, your baby will nurse and sleep fine, you will recover with ease. All of these things I absolutely do wish happened for you, but sometimes people don't think of, well, what if there are challenges and all of these things don't perfectly align and happen exactly the way that I want them to? And a few examples of these are like postpartum cramps as your uterus shrinks down can be startling to a lot of moms and actually really painful, and something that you just don't know about until you experience them. And that's something that I like moms to know ahead of time and prepare for so they don't have this discomfort if they can help avoid it. Also, things like breastfeeding challenges, such as sore nipples or poor latch. There's a crazy hormonal shift that your body does in those first couple days and up to 2 weeks. Your emotions are constantly changing in those first 2 weeks. And this is something that many moms are often telling me that they weren't prepared for. So just knowing that this is normal to feel really, really happy and then to sometimes feel really, really sad for maybe no reason, or you're crying and you don't know why, and it's just frustrating because you're crying, and you're overwhelmed because you're crying because you don't know why. It's just this kind of a vicious cycle that your hormones are just kind of dictating how you're feeling, and you just kind of feel out of control of your own body, and you have this new baby to care for and your body's recovering. It is a really sensitive time. So knowing who to talk to also when this does happen, if it happens to you, is something that is really important to have in place. And then just in general, the change of schedule and the lack of sleep that you will most likely have, and feeling maybe overwhelmed at times. All of these things are completely normal, and you are never alone in any of these experiences. So many moms, I want to say all moms experience this, it's just not talked about enough. I can't talk for everybody else, but I have worked with many, many moms, talked to many of my friends, experienced it myself, and everyone that I've talked to has experienced this in some way. So you are definitely not alone. You and your baby and your partner and your other kids, if that applies to you, are all navigating this new season, and changes and these challenges all takes time to learn. And my best advice is to be prepared and to be patient, and that this is a temporary time, that it is really, really hard, and it will feel really hard, but it will also feel like it went by really fast when you look back at it. So trying to enjoy those newborn snuggles as much as you can, and taking time to recover and relax and just let the chores wait. And if you can, recruit help to do things like the chores and cleaning your house, making and preparing meals. Things like that are just so helpful in these early postpartum days. It is totally easier said than done, though, because I am one of those people who likes to do everything, and I did not rest adequately with either of my last babies. But I am going to try really, really, really hard this time to honor that and to have people to keep me accountable, to rest and to just focus on my baby also. So that is something that I would recommend to you as well. This also ties into self-care and planning to prioritize self-care for yourself and for your partner, and to really remember to maintain a strong relationship regardless of what challenges come up in parenting. When I talk to my clients who are struggling in postpartum, I remind them to do at least one thing for themselves each day, whether that's a shower, make a cup of coffee or tea that you can enjoy, do some intentional breathing or journaling, whatever can help you relax and to kind of feel grounded back in like yourself, because there's this new person that you're taking care of. There's, a postpartum version of yourself that maybe you don't recognize right now. So doing other things that are going to help you feel better is really important. Also, if you can get outside, that's a huge bonus. But this is a challenging time for many moms. Having a time, though, to reset in your day and to feel more like yourself can definitely be a game changer. The last big part of planning for when a baby is born that can be stressful for many families is figuring out maternity leave or parental leave. And I recommend finding out your employer's policies as soon as you can to plan ahead and make decisions on how much time you or your partner can take off, how much time maybe you want them to take off, maybe you don't want them to take the full time off. Will you split your leave with your partner to extend baby's time with a parent instead of taking them to childcare right away? It is completely up to you and just something that's really important to plan ahead of time. So you really just know what's going to happen when baby is born, and you can feel good in those decisions and using your resources as best as you can. And in the United States, at least, the parental leave is really just disappointing and something I would really love to focus on someday and help make changes around this. I had both of my babies during nursing school. My first was during my last year of my master's, and my second was born 4 days after graduation. So I dodged the bullet with missing any school there with my second baby. Didn't affect anything. But my first time around, I was told that I could have a total of 6 hours off of school. And that wasn't even excused absence, which that didn't matter. I would have made it up. That's fine. But that wasn't even a full day of clinical in nursing school. The day that she was born worked out with my scheduling and how the weekends were, and somehow the stars aligned where I was able to take 11 days off from being in school physically, but I was still expected to be in class virtually, keeping up with all of my assignments and things like that. And at the time, I was just grinding in school, trying to finish my degree. I just didn't think anything of it, honestly, besides it being really hard. I was just exhausted with school, exhausted with a new baby. But now knowing what I do and how hard that birth experience was and how challenging postpartum was for months for me, that was completely unacceptable. So I would really love to help change this for all women because it affects moms so much. It affects the babies from being away from their moms too early and the family dynamics in general with the added stress. There is just so much that goes into it. It's really something I am passionate about and really saddened by when you compare them to other resources and support in other countries. And I don't think this should be different for dads either. I think that dads should also have a significant amount of time off, adjusting with their family, taking care of their spouses or girlfriends or partners, and really learning and bonding with their new babies. So I think there's definitely improvement that needs to be made here. But no matter what your situation is, and if you have to go back to work quickly like I did, that is something that is going to be okay. It will be okay if you can plan for it, if you can surround yourself with resources and support, and it will all work out because it really just has to. And having a positive mindset in a situation that you might not be able to change or control right now is really the best that you can do. I would love to be a resource for you to plan ahead. And I do also have an amazing referral list if you're interested or you need additional support, if there's something maybe outside of my scope. But I would just love to meet you and support you wherever you're at in your journey, in your pregnancy, or if you are already postpartum. Connecting with others who are going through a similar experience or maybe who have done it before can help you navigate the difficult challenges that you're going through in a way that you might not have considered before, and in a way that can help you avoid wasting your time or your money, resources with something that maybe isn't even super helpful. So the more that I've connected with moms and different birth workers and business owners and health and wellness who support moms and families, the more I've learned and felt more supported in not only my personal life, but also in my business. And it really just is great to have a village in this stage of your life. Thank you so much for being here today, and I hope you found this information to be helpful as you continue planning for your baby's arrival. I am almost to the halfway point in my third pregnancy, which is so crazy to think about, but I am right here with you preparing for another journey with another new little human, and I'm so excited, sometimes nervous and overwhelmed, but feeling confident that everything will really work out how it should. I will be as ready as I can be for when she decides to come, and I will have plans in place to feel confident and relaxed when she does. I would love to help you in your own journey, so please connect with me, or I will see you in a couple weeks in the online pregnancy support group. When you join, in addition to the 12 weeks of online Zoom calls, you will also gain access to my online birth course, Fearless Birth Academy, a private community, and an online evidence-based library of resources. And I hope it is so helpful and transformative for your pregnancy journey and for your labor and your birth and postpartum, bringing your new baby home, all of the above. I am so excited for you, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. Bye, everyone.